Welcome to episode 5 of In the Hot Seat. What is In the Hot Seat, you may well ask? Every 2 weeks, we'll be engaging with some industry experts and or customers for a lively discussion, debate, and even some discourse, or in the words of William Wallace, I'm going to pick a fight. As we humanise the digital experience, all aspects of the customer lifecycle are up for discussion, including education, awareness, acquisition, impact, and retention, as well as the technologies used throughout each phase of the journey, including CRM, Salesforce automation, marketing automation, support and case management, and logistics and supply chain. This now is the 5th episode of a 5-part series themed Experience the Engagement. To those of you streaming us on live on LinkedIn, we recommend you switch over to either YouTube or Facebook now by swapping over to one of those platforms by clicking on one of the links below. LinkedIn has a known bug that hasn't been resolved yet that causes your stream of a broadcast to restart without warning. So it doesn't exist on YouTube or Facebook. So if you want to jump over there, you'll be assured a smooth broadcast. So
great, thanks. So in today's episode, we're going to discuss the relationship between sales and marketing and some of its challenges and hopefully some potential solutions. And one of the thoughts I had was that one of the most difficult times for marketing and sales to help each other is really early in a company's life when it doesn't have enough resources for either one of those things. And, the company's got to figure out where they're going to allocate resources to, get themselves to the next stage. So that's one of the things I wanted to talk about today.
I think that's a great point, Pete. Industry leaders can afford to invest in all dimensions of the marketing cloud and platform, whereas a lot of early stage companies and startups may have to decide which dimension gets the resources and which don't.
Yeah,
it's a real struggle.
Yeah, the other challenge I'm really intrigued by is the degree to which technology has disrupted the way buyers buy, but not necessarily the way sellers sell, at least in the enterprise sales space. At least it hasn't affected them in a good way yet. I think the buyers have really they have a lot more choices. They have a lot more sources of information now. So from a buyer standpoint, it's a good thing.
I think we can see that. The buyer journey is completely out of sync with the sales process now, particularly on the kind of enterprise space, and it continues to cause a massive problem for organizations right across the industry gambits.
Yeah, well, I think it's clear that the two of us aren't going to figure this out. So maybe we should bring in our guests.
Excellent. Sounds like a great idea. And so representing the marketing corner, we have Laczynski. Lisa's the VP of Marketing at Nuvolo, who's a global leader in cloud-based connected workplace solutions based out of Paramus, New Jersey. Serving a global client base across healthcare, life sciences, financial services, retail, government, higher education, and enterprise, to name but a few of the industry sectors they represent. Lisa brings more than a decade of experience in sales and marketing in the enterprise and is currently applying her expertise in the growth and development of Nuvolo's corporate marketing team across all facets of marketing disciplines. So welcome, Lisa.
Thank you. Thank you for the great introduction. Hi, Jason. Hi, Pete.
Hi there. Fabian. So, in the sales corner, we have Fabian Littau. Fabian is the business area manager for Volantic, which is a digital transformation solutions provider in Germany. They've got over 1,000 clients. Over the last 15 years, Fabian has developed an extensive background in business development, sales, marketing, consulting, and his current specialty is in applying state-of-the-art digital transformation strategies to create more efficient and effective sales organizations for his portfolio of marquee clients. So those are our two guests. We are excited to get started. At least I wanted to start with you if I could. Sure. So I want to discuss marketing and probably the most obvious overlap between sales and marketing is, sort of lead generation, but marketing does way more than that. And I sort of wanted to see if we couldn't have you sort of tell us what those dimensions are, and then maybe we can talk about what the right allocation of resources is. So I'll let you go from there.
Sure. So it's I think marketing is foundational, right? Because if you don't have the right foundation, lead gen, which is that ultimate goal, isn't going to happen. So I think at the very foundation, I think product marketing, which is what I think is one of the glues that tie, kind of like the product management, the sales organization, even a customer success organization together, and make sure everybody's singing like the same song. I think that's one of the foundational elements that you need to have in a marketing organization to be successful. After that, I really do think content is important because, again, foundational, right? So building off of the frameworks that product marketing sets, you now need to create content, especially in B2B. You have to position yourself as a thought leader. Investing in one or two pieces could be a good idea, but you still need a content team, whether that looks like a writer or somebody who's producing some videos for you. Could be internal, could be external, but it's foundational because to achieve that lead gen engine that every company hopes to achieve, you need content, right? You need different things that are going to position you in a way that your prospects are going to look at you as a leader and someone that they want to engage with. So, obviously, I think those are the two foundational pieces. There's way more in marketing, like we all know that, you bring in. So like, I think simultaneously, especially if you're a younger organization, right, brand building and brand awareness is huge. You have to make sure people know who you are. So, when your sales organization or your business development organization is reaching out, they can be, there could be some brand familiarity there. And then, analyst relations or a public relations program is also great, but depending on the stage of the organization too, that's a lot more, financial investment. Those programs are costly. So those are great to have. But if we're talking about an organization that's just starting to get some traction, that might not be that company might not be able to have that yet. So those are, kind of what I think are the foundational elements of a marketing group if we're talking about like a smaller stage company just trying to build.
And so Fabian, just obviously adding to Lisa's thoughts, taking it from a sales perspective, where should we be allocating marketing resources across those various disciplines as we think about it from a sales perspective?
Yes, from my perspective, from the sales perspective, you have to see marketing as a part of the entire customer journey. And therefore, it's very important that marketing is part not only when it comes to lead generation and when it comes to marketing communications, but also when you're talking about existing customers and when your sales is in contact with existing customers. Of course, there's always the requirement that you need support from the marketing side. As Lisa said before, you need this support when it comes to products, product management, when it comes to all the communication materials, the contents. But this must also be focused and designed for supporting sales for their meetings with the customers, for all their sales initiatives, for the campaigns that you have in sales, and this must be more or less aligned. So therefore, marketing from the sales perspective must be part of all your sales initiatives as well. And from my experience, when it comes to marketing in enterprise organizations, marketing is always a place where you have special projects. Let's call it like this. There is new live communication, like fairs, exhibitions. Okay, marketing, please go and solve this for us. Or we have HR initiatives, and we would need some support from the marketing side to support this. I think, Lisa, this is.
I agree. Yeah.
Marketing is kind of the solving department in a company when it comes to special tasks, right?
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. I think marketing gets pulled into a lot of things, right? Like internal communications, right? Like an internal marketing group too, like marketing to, like, if you're doing a company kickoff or HR needs something for onboarding, or there needs to be like, we're pulled in, and it's really important, I think, it's hard because a lot of things are coming at you, and there's a lot of requests, but I really just keeping a focus on the goals, and especially at a younger organization, actually any kind of organization, it's really supporting sales is marketing's overall goals. So just keeping that in alignment when those things are coming at us, because it happens. It definitely happens. We have the resources, so people want to take advantage of the creative resources and all the things that we have at our disposal.
So Fabian said meetings, which customer interactions. And typically, in my experience at least, that wasn't, certainly in the online world, that's what marketing does. But in sort of face-to-face enterprise sales conversations with clients, that the salesperson is sort of left up to his or her own to develop those materials that would be put in front of the customer, given the specific environment the customer is in, their context, where they are in their buyer journey, and so on and so forth. Lisa, what role do you think marketing can or should play in that level of content creation?
Yeah, I think if we could play in helping the salesperson prepare, because it's right, when you're in front of a customer, it's really important that you're talking specific to their needs, right? So addressing all of the conversations that the salespeople have had on like those discovery calls, and really being specific and bringing content that's relevant to them. So that's where marketing should step in. The reality of it is that like our resources are strapped. So I think we try to do is give you as much content that can be tailored or tweaked a little bit for the need. And that's, maybe making like a sales deck of like 100 slides that has a giant appendix. And depending on what you're talking to, you can kind of pull from. And then if there needs to be a level of customized, content that you need for a specific, like deal size, or, I've even had requests for, hey, like we're involved in this RFP, like, can we get a video together, right? Can we have a personal video made? And, we've definitely jumped to that occasion too. Because again, I think we're totally aligned, Fabian, when it's like the name of the game is sales support, right? So, if we are doing something that's not supporting the sales organization, well, putting that on the back burner for a little bit, and doing that video or making that slide, I think it makes the difference in those face-to-face meetings, or, a delivery of an RFP or something like that. So while that's what I like to say, and, what I like to do, right, in marketing in my practice and leading my team, but is it always feasible or, realistic? No, but I do think that that's what marketing should be available for. I think that's the goal of marketing, and the point of marketing is to support those sales needs.
I think also having the platform that allows you to manage that process is a key thing. I don't know how many times we've seen that how many different versions of the truth are different sales teams using, that marketing create the 100-deck slide show, and individual salespeople and pre-sales teams get a hold of a version, and all of a sudden it's changed. It's 180-degree change round. So I think making sure that there's version control of that truth across the organization to give brand consistency is a key thing.
It's huge. It's something I'm actually working on right now in my organization. And I believe that is marketing's job, right? It's our job to make sure that sales and customer success, or whoever else who needs it, our solution consultants, have the correct version of everything. Like brand consistency, super important, right? You don't want someone using something outdated from 5 years ago where the logo is different, right? That's just not going to reflect well on the sales organization. So it's a challenge though, because people store things to their computers and that's what they use. So it's kind of a change management situation. And I do believe that it's marketing's job to fix that. It's a challenge.
It is, but it's supporting sales so much when you see the situation. Or one of the worst situations that you can have in sales is when sales managers become designers and start designing their own marketing materials and presentations, and maybe using stuff that is kind of outdated, 1 or 2 years old. You're using the wrong argumentation, because when you see marketing as a whole, as you said before, Lisa, not only marketing communication or creating content, but also kind of a product management and being the contact part to different departments in the company, gathering the latest information and creating marketing material out of it. This is the point where the latest truth is. And to provide it to sales, that sales can work with it, is very important, because sales from the personality, they are in the contact to the customers each and every day. But this is an individual contact. This is my personality meeting a person on the customer side. And I know what is my best practice, my personal best practice. But I never experience when I'm in sales? What is the best practice from my colleagues in sales? What is done differently by other colleagues? What is successful there? What is not successful there? And sharing the best practices. And this is a very important function that marketing is providing, like doing A/B testing, trying different argumentations, and put it all together that you can use it in sales.
Agree. I definitely agree. I also think too, and I think we fall into the trap, and I think you might have said it earlier, Fabian, but like maybe not, I don't know. But marketing, sometimes works on their special projects, but a lot of the times it's like, okay, we think that this is a really good idea, and you forget to bounce it off to salespeople. And by the time you enter, you're down like halfway down the road with it, you talk to something like, wait a minute, that's not going to resonate. And then like everything else has to start over. So, making sure that you're staying like in lockstep with sales to really give, and that's where I think product marketing comes in, right? At least in the organizations I've been in, product marketing is that glue that holds that together, and that works. Either product marketing or something I also heard called field marketing is someone that works directly with the salespeople and make sure that all of their needs bubble up to, I guess, the creative team and the leadership to deliver what they need, right? Instead of us working in a silo by ourselves, creating content no one cares about.
Yeah, and I think underlying that, often there's the incentives for each of those teams is different. And then actually, when you look at it from an individual sales perspective, the incentive is you're either going to hit your numbers or get chucked out the door for not hitting them. So quite often there can be underlying behaviors that are driving those mentalities. So I mean, I think let me be the contentious Scotsman and start a fight. So to either or both of you, given everything we've learned over the last 5 to 10 years, should the lead generation function report to sales or marketing? Why do you think that's the case? And what kind of impact do you think that has on lead generation effectiveness?
I'm going to hide off screen for the answer.
I'll start. I really don't think it depends. I don't think it matters. I don't think it matters who the actual function reports to, as long as there's alignment. There needs to be alignment between the organizations. Reporting structure only means so much, right? You could have reporting structure that houses the two groups, but I've been in this too, right? I've reported to sales, I've had a marketing group running on its own. I think the sales leaders are always going to care more about sales. So everything is going to be skewed, in terms of like, what are you doing for the sales organization? Whereas, so if that's what works for a company in the stage of growth it is, then that's fine. If that's all you can afford is to have marketing report into sales and not have its own leader, that's fine.
I actually think you bring up a good point there, Lisa, around the stage the company's at.
Yep.
And I think that is a big driver to to where that team lives, and also what that major focus is, from a marketing standpoint, in terms of, we're not trying to build brand as a startup. We're actually just trying to capture, logos and bring revenues in initially to get the thing moving. So, often it's all about demand generation versus, the softer brand and maybe even customer touch points at the point where it's all about customer acquisition on the smaller scale. And most of that's survival versus choice. But I think that does change as you scale up across the small, medium business up into enterprise.
Yeah, agreed.
So, Fabian, what do you think? Let's just assume it's a larger company and you've got resources to allocate. One of the things I think about with an SDR versus so a marketing qualified lead versus a sales qualified lead versus an opportunity. I think one of the things that I see a lot is that those aren't defined well, and they mean something to the marketing group, and then the sales group thinks it means something else, but that is either one of those things yet an opportunity, and that isn't defined all that well, and so that kind of leads to these games where, as Jason was saying, if you're incentivized to get X number of leads to the sales group by the end of the month, and you're behind, then people start to act more like pirates or whatever they have to do to get these leads, over the transom into sales. And that's why the idea of who should own this responsibility comes up, because if you're all in the same team reporting to the same person, the definitions are more likely to be aligned. But just like Lisa was saying, at the end of the month, or the end of the quarter, no sales manager on the planet's got time for whatever it is you were going to do on the marketing side of the house, right? So there's definitely some trade-offs here.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. From my point of view, it doesn't matter what is the reporting structure, or let's say this is not the first priority. The first priority for me is who sets the goals, and the goals must be set by the guys who want to close the deals, and this is sales from my perspective. Therefore, marketing and sales, the head of marketing and the head of sales, they must sit together, define clear goals, what they want to achieve in the next year, and then start working on defining the lead generation path and the sales path that you have to go until you have your numbers at the end of the year. And what is so typical from the sales perspective, at the beginning of the year, let's put it this way, you get your target and you say, I have to do this or that, turnover, revenue, whatever, this is what I have to achieve. So you go to marketing and you say, I need more leads. And then marketing starts working on getting more leads. The pipeline gets bigger and bigger, and more leads go into sales. And then there is the moment when sales says, I have too many leads. It's just too many to follow up and too many to work on. Please stop it, the lead generation. I have to focus on my leads. So this shows me, first of all, lead generation is not only filling the pipeline. Lead generation is qualification as well. You absolutely need the right leads. You need a qualification process. Nurturing must be kind of a qualification. And when you have a sales qualified lead, so you hand it over, you have your opportunity, it must be clear for sales, who am I talking to? What is the history in contact with this person? What does this person know about me, about my company, about my product? And what is the goal now in my personal connection from the sales side to close? What should I close? What is the product or the products and services that I sell now? Because before it was more like an automated contact, personalized contact, and now it's the real one-on-one human contact when sales comes into play. And therefore, all this journey of qualification needs to be done properly and correctly from the marketing side, and then hand it over to the sales side to really close the deal.
Yeah. I mean, go ahead. I can jump in if you want me to respond.
Well, I was just going to move on to maybe discuss some of the problems of how is the SDR incentivized, and what are the pluses and minuses of that, and is that the way it should be? Let's just start with that part of the value chain. Then we can get into what's wrong with salespeople in a minute.
So I think a lot of organizations, enterprise organizations, to incent SDRs just to get meetings, right? I think meetings are a big incentive. Well, a meeting, you can get with anybody. You can get anybody a meeting, right? And then I think what happens is it loses credibility when it gets to the sales organization, because they get a lot of these meetings. The sales, people will come on the meeting, or however that works in that specific organization, and it turns out to be a not qualified account, right? So I think that's what I've seen as a major problem in sending SDRs for the wrong thing, right? So what I think, really could be a solution for that is incentivizing SDRs to really start engaging with the right people, and then incenting them for how long they actually, get down into the sales cycle. So if they're hitting, a sales qualified lead, then that SDR gets paid or something like that, right? To have them focus more of a quality rather than a quantity, right? I think that's the right model, or else you're just not going to get the quality leads that you want. And then something that Fabian said too is like, we have too many leads. We need to stop this. And that's just because the other end of it is they're being incentivized to just kind of throw everything over the fence because that's how they're getting paid. But that's not doing any favors to sales because it's just kind of eating up their time.
And I think actually, as you talk about, the SDR taking the process further down the cycle before a handover or before actually saying, yeah, this is a sales qualified lead, I'm going to pass that or book that meeting or give it over to an account rep. There is a level of discovery skill set that organizations chronically do not invest properly in with their SDR team. So you talk about the quantity versus the quality, and I think organizations that want to do that and take a more qualified quality lead on the skill set piece for handover to a salesperson or an account director really do need to look at the skill sets their SDR team have rather than throwing them into the shark's den and letting them have at it themselves.
I think that's a great point. I just wrote that down. Organizations don't invest in quality, they invest in quantity. So these tools that allow you to have 110 calls a day instead of 100 calls a day, just how could you possibly have any sort of valuable interaction with a client if the idea is that you should have as many touches a day as possible? And certainly seems like the technology has followed that whole culture, if you will, or set of priorities. Yeah. Or belief system that you just need more at bats as opposed to being better once you're at the plate.
No, it's not important what you put into this machine. It's important what the outcome is in the end, and therefore quality is the main driver. And in sales, I'm more than happy to have less meetings a week or less meetings a month. But the quality is even higher, because the main thing to measure the success of the whole work is my conversion rate. And why not put the SDR and the salesperson into one boat and say, look, you're the guy for lead generation or demand generation, and you are the guy for the closing. And you have to work together, you have to work interconnected to achieve the best results. And why not pay an incentive to the SDR when there's a good sales result? Because it is his or her work as well, in terms of finding new leads, qualify the leads, give really a proper sales qualified lead over to the sales department and say, please, here is your chance, go and get it, close the deal. And why not, for both of them, why shouldn't they benefit from this whole process?
The best quote I think I've ever heard from somebody I've worked with before was that a guy said that the scarcest resource for salespeople, they think of it as their own time, but it's not. It's the time that they have with qualified buyers. Yeah. And I think that explains some of the difference that we're talking about here in terms of quantity versus quality. What was your insight into the value of that interaction?
In sales, I don't want to waste my time. My time is so limited. Every day is too short. The week is just too short. And on the other hand side, the role of an SDR, sometimes it's a bad role, to be honest, because your job is to find people that you may not work with in future. The best targets you have to hand over, which is not a good situation for you at all, right? The bad ones you have to keep and you have to nurture and you have to develop and qualify, and the good ones you have to give to another person. This is not a nice job. But again, the combination of both is so important, and especially in sales, time is so limited. When you think of all the preparation you have to do before meeting a potential buyer, all the argumentation that you have to build, the time for the meetings, maybe with traveling, all the things you have to do later on in sales. When you are in a complex sales process, maybe you have to work for weeks or months together with this potential buyer. Time is so limited, and therefore quality is main thing, and then focus on quality and go and get the right deals.
I also think that from a sales strategy perspective, with regards to the wider sales team, investing in the skill sets for the SDR is a bit of an investment in terms of a longer term relationship and a build of that successful team ongoing. The SDR job is 18 months at best, burn out and move on to the next one. Whereas if you can actually start to bring SDRs into the account exec role by training them better, you do actually get a much better result, even from the point of view of they're qualifying meetings better. The account directors that are closing more deals because they're getting more quality time with a prospective customer, and you pull everybody along in the organization. And I think especially given the fact that we're heading into a more challenging economic environment, organizations really do need to think about how do you invest in the people that you have versus the burnout that typically goes with that. I'm going off topic somewhat.
Well, just real quick on that too, even not only bringing them into sales, but like I've recently taken 2 SDRs and brought them into the marketing team, right? Yeah. So, I mean, they're a huge resource for us. They already know our persona. They know what the challenges are. They're used to working with sales and kind of having that relationship, because you have to have sales and marketing communication. So they're a valuable resource for marketing. I will take them all day long. That's for sure.
Lisa, what do you think about the client success managers? Is a fairly recent thing because of the huge movement to the subscription model, and instead of a 3-year perpetual license, you might have a month or 2 or a year at most where you've got some commitment from the customer. Mm-hmm. How adding that role into a company, is that another source of what the SDR could also bring to the table in terms of new interactions and new opportunities?
Absolutely. I think having that, well, first of all, the client success manager is a huge role in companies, like you just said, right? I think it's imperative. It's one thing on the sales side to secure the customer and sign them, but then, once it's handed to the success manager, that's another thing, right? We want to retain the customers. I think the SDRs, that could also be a career path for them as well. But I think that is a big role in the company that's sometimes overlooked, right? I think a lot of the focus is put on like the front end, just acquiring the customers and then maybe not retaining them through the journey. And then what does that even look like? What is that customer success manager responsible for doing, like at each stage of that relationship with the company, right? Each stage of their contract. So I think very important. Fabian,
do you guys use client success managers in your company?
Kind of. It's a question of the naming, I would say. If you call it client success managers or key account managers or account managers or marketing retention managers, whatever. So what I absolutely agree with is the fact that the way was so long until you have an existing client. It started with all the getting to know, then you build up a relationship, you sell for the first time, and then you shift your focus to the next one, and you forget about the client that you have. And especially in B2B business, but also in B2C. But when you look at B2B business, it's so important to raise your share of wallet. Normally, there is not only one product to sell, there are many products to sell. And if there are not many products to sell, there are services that you want to sell. And you want to build up a strong relationship over years. And you want to have existing customers, buying customers each and every year, maybe with a bit less effort that you have to put in, but get the best out of it. And therefore, a client success manager, a person who takes care of existing customers, is very, very important from my point of view. And when
sorry, Fabian, didn't mean cut.
Sorry, just one sentence. Thank you very much, Jason. When you look at the marketing part, this is for me the point or the last point where marketing automation must come into play. You need marketing automation to support client success managers to boost the power that they have onto another level.
Yeah, I also think that, just going back to, challenging economic times, you talk about, increasing the share of wallet. I think actually even just protecting the share of wallet as we go forward, that client success, target account man, whatever you want to call them, because I think you're right. You said initially the definition of that role, often, I certainly did it myself personally as an enterprise account exec selling. I was also the customer success manager at the same time, depending on the scale of the organization, how it's set up. It's a crucial thing to keep that customer happy. And, it's way more cost effective to keep a customer than it is to, acquire a new one. I think, as time goes on, maybe we'll see more focus in the customer success, customer experience touch point aspect of, sales and marketing, as we go through these, more challenging times, I think, as we go move into this next calendar cycle.
And I think one last thing too on that is, obviously you want to retain your share of wallet, but if you aren't a large organization, you don't have funds for, video and content creation and all the bells and whistles that you need. A happy customer is your best reference. It's your best marketing tool, right? So, you not only want to retain them from a company perspective, but if you can leverage those customers to do a testimonial video or a case study or something like that, that speaks volumes and I think helps sales. That's the number one request we get as a sales organization, right? Or as a marketing organization is, can I have some case studies? Because that's your best proof, right? That your existing customers like working with you and they see value in your product.
Absolutely. I think we might have time for a couple of questions. I see there's some questions in the chat. I think Christy is asking if marketing is a giver and sales is a receiver, is there ever a time when the roles are reversed? I'll put that to both of you.
I'm thinking.
Yeah, for me, it's clear. So in the beginning, marketing is a giver and sales is a receiver. And when you have existing customers, there's time that roles are reversed. Because marketing needs to keep the contact all the time on a constant level. And whenever it gets crucial, there's a new project or whatever, then it's time where sales comes into play, takes the new deal, closes the deal. And then in this case, marketing is the giver and sales is the other way around. Sorry for that. So roles change depending on the life cycle of the customers. Absolutely.
Makes sense. I agree. I absolutely agree. I also think too, like in terms of looking at a different way, right? Marketing gives and gives and gives, but I also think that it needs to be reciprocated because the information that we get back from sales only helps us do our jobs better. So, giving that information, having us receive it and do what we do with it, I think is important as well.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, Lisa. I think the having a mechanism that is that feedback where the salespeople have the ear and eyes of the customer on all levels throughout that sales process and sometimes beyond. And I think feeding that back into marketing to keep content fresh, relevant, and constantly fine-tuned is a key thing that all organizations, big and small, should be looking at.
Mm-hmm.
And when you think of campaigns, for example, special campaigns or invitations to special events, when your company is having an event and you're inviting customers, normally it's the case that sales says, please marketing, can't we invite this or that person from client side? And this is also, again, the time when roles change and marketing is more in the lead. In terms of taking care of the customers.
Yep, absolutely.
Well, I think we've got time for one more quick question, which is we've been hearing a lot about sort of customer engagement, and I'm wondering sort of what that means to you, Lisa, and how it or does it even exist at the salesperson customer interaction level, or is it something different?
I think so. Customer engagement for me as a marketing person is looking at how they're engaging with what we're serving them, right? I think our technology is so sophisticated these days that it's almost scary. Everybody knows that, right? So we can see exactly who's engaging with what and where they're going and what their journey looks like. But that only allows us to, one, inform, the SDR organization, the sales organization on what their prospects actually looking at, right? So it's a huge part of of the marketing responsibility over and all to see how that customer is engaging with our content. Are they engaging with our content? What are they looking at? Where are they going after they read things? What are they clicking on? How long are they reading pages? That's such valuable information that we take as marketing people. And if you have the proper mechanism set up internally, that's fed directly back to kind of the front line, which is the sales and the SDR team, so they can go, base their message off of what we're seeing in the back end. So it's huge. I mean, I think that's everything. It's everything, because when the name of the game is personalized content, right? You want something that is going to be tailored specifically to what you're interested in. And how do we get that information? Well, we look at what you're engaging with, right? And that it just informs the rest of the sales cycle. So huge piece of a marketing strategy.
Okay, terrific. Fabian, you want to argue the opposite? Now we don't need to know anything about our customers. Everything's fine, or are you going to agree with that one?
Not at all. It's very important for marketing and sales, of course. But when you see it from the customer perspective, they just don't care who they are engaged with, if it is marketing or sales, or who is your contact person, or where does the content come from that you're reading or watching. They just don't care. You can even go on and they don't care who packed the package, who shipped the package. It's all one company that they are in contact with. And this whole customer engagement, for me, from my perspective, is the perfect world where you have customer engagement as a whole, marketing, sales, all the other departments, and there is no difference for customers who they are in contact with. It's just your brand or your company, and this is the perfect world.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Well, that is all the time we have today, Lisa and Fabian. You survived the hot seat. Thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
If for our listeners, if you think you have what it takes to be in the hot seat, let us know. We'd love to hear from you. And that is your hot seat episode for today. Thank you so much for being with us. I'm Pete Smith.
And I'm Jason Lundy.
And tune in next time for different faces, different topics, different perspectives. And we'll put somebody else in that hot seat. Thanks again.
Thanks, folks.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.